Hi there. Today I'd like to talk to you about how to break up stagnant ways of thinking. Now, first of all, how do we know that we're actually trapped in a stagnant way of thinking? Well, one of the ways is that you may notice a lack of motivation or enthusiasm in your life. Perhaps you've begun to notice that you have a tendency towards avoiding taking action on those things you know you otherwise should. You have a sense that you're just living under your potential. There's kind of an emptiness about it all. And then there's also a tendency towards depression and low self-esteem. Or maybe you find that you want to move somewhere, you want to go somewhere different, you want to move in a different direction, but you just don't have any clarity about what that direction could be. Also, you may find yourself or describe yourself as being in a rut. My favorite definition of being in a rut is a casket with the ends kicked out. And sometimes people report a sense of growing self-centeredness, kind of an implosion as people's focus begins to move more and more and more into their inner world. They become more attached to their own preferences, their own comforts, their own sort of holing up in the world. And then a huge problem in stagnation is increasing doubts about your capacity to actually bring about change in your life or your career. So what actually causes mental and career stagnation? One of the things is attachment to a static way of thinking about the world. When we grab on to the way we've always done it, the way we've always thought about things, then we actually find ourselves in opposition to the world. The world is about change. We are constantly evolving. The world around us is evolving. And I don't think that there's any time that's better than the last 2 years during this pandemic that has proven this to us. There's also, perhaps you've also had a lack of challenge in your life or in your career. Things just don't seem exciting anymore. And there's also an accompanying fear of change and letting go of old ways. Now, fear is particularly problematic. When we give in to fear, then we begin to retreat away from the things that we fear. We move away from the things that frighten us, and it can cause anxiety and a lot of discomfort and unrest. A big one is also being disconnected from community. And again, back to the pandemic, through all these lockdowns and having to stay at home or shifts in the way that work is conducted in our modern world, where people begin to do work at home, these things break us away from natural flow of community integration that actually supports more energizing ways of thinking about things. Also, a disbelief in knowing that you have the ability to bring about change in your life. When people say things like, I don't like to change, or I don't want to change that, you can see that there's a resistance to that change, often which is founded in a lack of belief that they actually can make change. So what are some of the results of stagnation? Well, decreased mental and physical health. People actually begin to feel more run down. Their thinking becomes more depressed, more suppressed. And there's also a decrease in life satisfaction. The kind of zest or zeal in life just doesn't seem to be there any longer. They may also notice a declining quality in the relationships that they have around them. And then, unfortunately, there's a tremendous number of studies that show there's actually a decline in cognition as a result of stagnant ways of thinking. So how is it that we can break free of this kind of stagnation cycle that we find ourselves in? One of the first things to do is get really vulnerable. You're going to need to get honest about the fact that you're there. And this is okay. That's the first step towards taking a step forward. Now, you may need to choose who you say that to. Perhaps you're just going to say it to yourself, first of all. But then begin to share that with those around you. But choose wisely. Choose people who can support you carefully, kindly, and share with them where you're at in this stagnation, so that you can begin to verbalize and get out of the thinking mode of stagnation and get into the action mode of stagnation. Also, engage in learning something new, such as new projects and activities. Maybe ask your boss or ask your manager at work for new kinds of activities to engage in. Look for volunteerism. Look for ways to express your desire to contribute. You know, I very strongly believe that all human beings wish to contribute. We wish to give of ourselves, of our talents, and our abilities. It's through that giving that we get reflected back to us who we are. And when we see that, when we see who we are through the giving to others, we actually get excited because who we are is energetic, alive beings. We're amazing creatures. Another thing is to engage in learning something new. We love to learn. In fact, our brains are hardwired to learn. We are lifelong learners. At least we're capable of being lifelong learners. And I don't know about you, but I love getting excited about learning something new. Breaking up routines is another way of breaking out of stagnation. Now, I have to admit that I had a father who was very routinized, and as a result, as a young person, I got very, very resistant to routine. And frankly, it's only been in the last couple of years that I've been able to bring routine into my life. But a great many people are actually at the other end of that spectrum where they hold very, very strongly to old routines and habits. So one of the ways to kind of shake that up is to bring in new routines or let go of some of the old ones. Look for ways to jazz up that routine so that you can re-energize yourself and get out of stagnation. Get grounded. This is one of my favorites. Get grounded in good mental and physical practices. Meditation, exercise, journaling, better eating habits, coffee and cigarettes and alcohol and sugar. All these things actually bring our energy levels down and they take us out of being grounded in who we are. Also, identify areas that cause you fear and anxiety. This may also be a place where you need to share with others around you who are supportive. Speaking those words out can begin to normalize those emotions and begin to allow you to move past them so you can energize that stagnant way of thinking. And do all these things by beginning with small steps each day. The greatest example is the ant. How does an ant build an ant mound? One grain of sand at a time. Each day taking one grain of sand, pretty soon it's a mountain. In the same way, by taking small steps each day, we're able to overcome massive challenges and get ourselves back on the pathway of feeling energized and alive in our careers, our lives, and our relationships. Another thing is as you go along this journey, you need to acknowledge your progress frequently. Pat yourself on the back. There's nothing more satisfying than taking action, seeing it result in something, and then acknowledging that result, no matter how small. Remember the ant and the anthill. And then finally, perhaps you need to seek some other kinds of support, like a coach. By having that kind of support, you can begin to express the fears and anxieties around change and begin to look for clear steps forward, which bring clarity to the path ahead. And it also brings accountability into your life. Accountability is so important because those emotions, those difficult emotions, our tendency is to want to avoid those emotions. And so you really need someone in your life to help you stay grounded and stay focused on what the goal is to help you overcome those days when those emotions tend to run the show. If this resonates with you, if you find yourself in stagnant thinking, stagnant in your career, or stagnant in your relationships, give me a call and let's discover with kindness your life without borders.